Hi Vanessa, this is Rebecca with your Assignment 1 Changing Context Critique. So I like your ideas that you had going on for this assignment. Let's talk about this first one of your dad and this steer. So this was definitely changing context of the original image, and you did a good job cutting everything out. There is a few things that are making it feel like they're really pasted on the background image as opposed to being actually in the scene. So I'm going to talk to you about how to make that look a little bit more realistic. So one of the biggest things that you'll notice first is the original image looks a little blurry, and the resolution is different than this background image. So the background image is very pixelated and sharp, whereas this one is softer and blurrier. Plus the colors are different. So the steer and your dad are more on the yellow side. You can really see it in his belt buckle, whereas this is all very blue and cool. So if you want the background to look more like the original image to just blend a little bit better, then I recommend bringing down the temperature to make it a little bit yellower, just a little bit, not too yellow because then it'll just look gross. So just be careful, just real gradual. Reducing the saturation and the contrast a little bit, just a little bit. And then adding a blur filter, a Gaussian blur filter a few times. You don't want to make it so blurry that it's hard to look at, but you just want to make it a little bit softer so it's not quite so sharpened. And then you could even add a grain filter as well to make it look a little grittier like an older photograph. The image of your dad and the steer, there's not really any true black on either of them. So I recommend using your levels adjustment layer and pulling the black slider over so you get a little bit more contrast. But you don't want to make it so much more contrast that it no longer works with the background that you just brought the contrast down, So just fiddle with it and see, when they kind of look the same, basically, So that'll help a lot. The other thing is there's no shadows. So the sun is coming from this direction over here. I can tell by the shadows in the water here. And so a shadow would be coming off of your dad coming this direction and off of the steer coming this direction. So I know that we didn't cover shadows before you made this assignment, but since then you did see a tutorial on how to create shadows. So and it's also something that, if you wanted to learn, you could look it up and see what's out there. So adding shadows, really subtle shadows, would just really help to plant them in there. The other thing would be to like make wrinkles in the sand, and that's not quite as easy. That's something that you would have to look up. But when we stand on sand, it automatically gives below our feet, especially on something this size. He's gonna sink down. So. So you really want to try to plant your subjects in the scene to make them look like that's where they belong. Other than that, I think the composition is good, and these were great images to choose, and this was a fun concept. So this image of your grandpa, sorry, it's getting a little cropped off from the window that I'm recording in, but I really like this idea, and I think that these are both really beautiful images. I think that I didn't understand what you meant when it said for this one I was not able to add the canvas in the back, so I wasn't exactly sure what that meant. But I think it's I think it doesn't need anything else in this image. There's just a few distracting things for me that he's kind of cut off here, so I would recommend moving him over further so that this falls on the edge of the screen, on the edge of your artboard, basically, so that it doesn't look like he's just been cropped there. So just bump him over so that's off of there altogether, or even lower him down further into the trees, and so that part's real dark so we don't even see it there is an option as well. He also, I remember this original image, there's a lot of information there, and by making him so muted, we're not seeing a lot of the beautiful detail in that image. So I recommend instead of lowering the opacity, that you actually play with the blending modes instead, and see if there's something that you like that way to make, because it's nice that you can see the horizon line behind him, so that he seems kind of like a spirit, but I think that there is, besides playing with the opacity, that using a blending mode would represent this a little bit better and make it more visually interesting. When things are really grayed out and flat, the viewer's eye tends to pass by it, and this is such a nice image that you don't want that. So let's not miss that opportunity there, and instead use a blending mode. Other than that, I like your experimenting. I really like the way your brain was working on these, and I see some of your new Photoshop skills being applied, and you successfully changed the context. So keep up the good work.